Hello teams and welcome to our session research, and it also unpacks the task background research. My name is Adam Ostoga. I'm going to quickly run you through a bit of a refresher around research and inquiry skills, but starting to lead you towards the next step of defining your problem and understanding what your problem actually is. So one of the things we've really got to consider is, why do we actually research in the first place? And there's a number of reasons for it. To find out more information you might not be aware of, to maybe validate your thinking and get extra data around why you're thinking what you're thinking, to potentially to explore and to discover new things that you weren't aware of, and also just to see what else is happening out there. So there's a number of different reasons why we do research in the sense of the challenge, but also just generally, and it's really important to remember that, obviously, to then think, okay, what are we trying to achieve through the program? Now, a number of different resources you can use to find sources of information. Obviously online, searching on Google makes sense, but there are still some great books that store up some great information. But often we forget about the people and businesses and how useful they are for information, especially in the type of challenge we're doing. Being able to interview people and find out from businesses what they're doing is also a really useful way of gathering information. And so with that, I've got some useful sources that you might otherwise add to your list. So we've got the ABS, the Australian Bureau of Statistics. That's where obviously all of our census data gets collected. A lot of other data gets collected there and then publicly shared for other people to use. Now, I personally find that sometimes it's a little bit hard to read the information or to find it. And that's where, for me, economy.id is really useful to have a look at the economic data of particular local government areas or regional communities. Now, not every area is going to be on this platform. You do have to pay to be part of it. But once you're in it, there are some great data analysis tools that's really useful for us in our teams to actually start looking at how do we get the right information we need. Also have a look to industry bodies. If there's industry bodies in your space that you think might be really useful, get in touch with them. They might have an understanding of what's happening across the entire industry, or might have some really useful data for you to consider. And obviously local businesses if you have any connections. Now, we call all of that research secondary research, but you aren't going to find all the information you need online or from these sources. Sometimes you're going to have to find it yourself. And it's what we call our primary research, where you're going to have to probably create your own survey. And it's something you might have to consider in your team if you need to do this. If you are going to do a survey, make sure you collect the data via paper forms, via interviews and online surveys. And I encourage you to do a multiple of ways if you have time. If you are going to do a survey though, make sure it's really easy for people to fill in and give multiple choice answers where possible. Some things people aren't willing to openly share, and so if they have a multiple choice answer or a bit of a category, they can circle the right thing and say, yeah, I'm in that category. I'm not going to tell you the exact sort of amount or what my age is, but I'll circle that. It's a really good way, and also helps you classify the information later. Make sure you keep your survey brief. Don't have more than 10 questions. Try and keep it one page. Really simple, straight to the point, get the information you need. And make sure you talk to your prospective customers. It's really easy to do a survey where you run around your friends and other people in other class groups, but if they're not your customer, there's no point talking to them. So try and look at how do you talk deliberately to your target customers that you think are actually going to benefit from this, and learn through that process. So now that I've unpacked a little bit of the research that you can do and looking into, and also how to do your own research and doing your own survey, it's really important to see where this all comes together in what we're doing next. In your binder, there is a section about doing some research and starting to go deeper in your problem frame. This is actually part of your business case and can be its own solution. You obviously need to analyze the current situation to help prove that your solution is needed. Why is it so important? Is it just your perspective, or is it other people's perspectives as well? And that is broken down into 3 sections that actually align directly with your problem frame. So you look at your people group. So you have to find a group of people with your problem frame. Then have a look, okay, so why and how are this group of people affected by the problem? If this is who you're talking about, how and why are they affected by the problem? You've set a need and importance. Why is it so important that we meet this need? There must be some research on the benefits. There must be some other thinking beside just your own game, we just need to do it. There must be some research out there, and so it's really important to pull that data together. And then the last part is what else is out there at the moment which aligns with your gap. When you start to say, okay, this doesn't exist because of these reasons, it is really, really important that you articulate what else is out there, what other service providers are out there, what other products are out there. Really, that's the really important part, because people will ask you lots of questions. Oh, something like this is already there. So make sure it's really, really clear you know what else is out there. Now, to wrap up this session, it's not a long one, but it's really important to understand that you actually need to have a plan to do research. One of my pet peeves, and I've seen it enough times in the program, where teams go, hey, I'm doing research. I have no idea what I'm looking up, but we're doing research. You need to be really, really clear about what you're trying to achieve in your research. What are you trying to find? Don't just explore, actually see what you need to learn. So we've got a research plan in your team binder that you can step through, and it's got just some headings. What task is it for? Is this for our background research, or is this for something else? What information do we actually need to find, and who will find it? Who on our team is actually going to look it up? Don't have 3 people looking it up at once. Just make sure there's one person looking at that and the other people can look at the next thing. What source should be used is a starting point. Oh, maybe we can look at this. And then as you start to research and explore, you can discover more from there. And the last part is when is it due? That helps you with your time management. Are you doing a task that's due immediately or a task that's due later? To wrap up this session, please always take notes of your research. Don't just simply do research and remember it all and hope that you remember it all. Take notes and record your sources so you can go back to it. You also do need to create reference lists, because people might ask, where did you get that statistics from? And you might need to go back and do it. In that, check your sources. Are they reputable, using local data and actually useful? Is there someone that we can trust? Have a look at the data source. Some data online is simply just made up, and you need to be very careful to make sure you don't get caught out in that. Using local data, there's a lot of obviously information from around the world. Is that the right information you need? You're going to have to look into that. And is it actually useful? Some stats are astounding and incredible, but is it actually going to help you with your problem frame? Think about that. Work smart, so make sure you collaborate and stay organized. Look for consistency in the facts. They might not align exactly, but if you've got one stat that says 50% of the population, another one says 90% of the population, one of those might not be right, and you might have to do a little bit more research to check. And the last part is probably the most important part. Research should inform your thinking and be interpreted, not simply just facts. So when you find information, think about, what does it actually mean now that we know this? Is the problem bigger than we thought? We didn't recognize this sector of the community. Oh, wait a minute, we're going to change our problem frame slightly because we discovered this. You need to make sure that your research is interpreted. It's a really important part of the research process. Simply learning stats, that's good, but what does it actually mean to learn that? And that's really important that you get that through your research task.